How to stop overthinking. Overthinking is something that I have personally struggled with because it is something that literally takes control of your mind and your reality. But here's the good news. Overthinking may be normal and common, but it can and should be dealt with. You can actually retrain your mind to stop spiraling and start living again. Hi, my name is Lauren, and in this video, I want to talk all about overthinking, all about what it is, how to deal with it, and how to reframe your mind. Stay with this video because this advice is honestly so helpful, and these tips will help you completely reframe your attitude about overthinking. So, to start, what does it actually mean to overthink? Overthinking works differently for everyone, and to me personally, overthinking means to obsessively repeat the same thought, belief, or story by overanalyzing my environment and getting really trapped in a loop of thoughts that bring me anxiety. And I find that with overthinking, when I overthink, I actually end up repeating the exact same thoughts over and over again, just in different words. But the story essentially is the same. Now, the first thing you need to do is separate yourself from your thoughts. And when we overthink, we have this really big problem in life, and we feel as though we are overthinkers or that we are anxious. But whether you actually have anxiety or not, it's very helpful to adapt your mentality from I'm anxious to I'm experiencing anxiety. And that's the same thing with overthinking. So to adapt a shift from I am an overthinker to I'm experiencing an overthinking moment will change your life. And if you tell yourself, I'm not my thoughts, I'm just experiencing this moment of difficulty, you actually are able to then ask yourself why you're experiencing overthinking thoughts. Because when you start observing instead of identifying, you begin to realize that these thoughts aren't actually you. They're just simply passing by, and it kind of just helps you shift through that. And here's the truth. You are overthinking because you are actually trying to overly control a situation that you actually have no control over. Listen carefully. Again, your tendency to overthink is just your tendency to overly control. When you understand this, you can let yourself actually learn what you truly want. So, what you're overthinking, you can learn what you want the outcome to be. You can learn what you don't want, and you can learn what you're resisting in the present moment. You can also learn the root cause of your overthinking by understanding moments in childhood where you felt as though you had to overthink to control a situation. And maybe overthinking in the past was a way of protecting yourself. And when you view it like that, you're able to make decisions and proactive choices that are based on fully understanding the situation and not fear and not this kind of tendency to control. And that's when clarity starts to come in. Next, it's very important to spot the story. So now, as I mentioned before, we create a story in our mind. When you spot the story that you have created, you can understand where it comes from and the purpose that overthinking actually serves. You can also give yourself reassurance that you really want from overthinking. So I'm going to give an example so that it makes sense. I personally overthink making wrong decisions. And I find that the story that I tell myself is I'm going to literally mess up, I'm going to choose something wrong and regret it later. And when I think about it, I can separate it from the truth and reassuring myself that I'm just experiencing perfectionism. And that's all it is, perfectionism. And you can actually learn to self soothe, learning to comfort yourself in that moment instead of believing the story, which is that you're going to, mess up in life. Then you can let yourself feel and accept. And this is one of the biggest points. Understand that overthinking will pass. It's your tendency to overly control, it's a tendency to make sense of the story, but it's just your current state. Try to understand the emotion that feels underneath the heavy emotion of overthinking. Like, for example, in the perfectionism example, if you're overthinking everything to be perfect, understand that the emotion behind it is fear, and understand that everything that you're trying to control, overthinking, won't keep you from experiencing fear. It'll keep you actually afraid because you don't have the room to simply feel that emotion of fear. And this leads me to the act of acceptance. True acceptance is what will soothe you. And finally, one of the biggest tips that helped me with overthinking is surrender it. Understand that you can only control your emotions, you can only control your thoughts and your actions. the things that happen in life are not something that you can overthink or overly control. And if you can't control, for example, external events, for example, you have an exam tomorrow, surrender the need to control that. You can't control external events, but you can take responsibility for the things that you can control of. So, for example, with the example of the exam, you can control how much you prepare and how much you choose to worry about the situation. And this mindset shift is so important. Also, adapting a mindset shift that God only sends you things that you can handle and you can always turn to a higher power for guidance. That is such a beautiful perspective to have. And when you start to view things in that way, you understand that overthinking doesn't serve you and you could just honestly let it go because it just doesn't bring you any good. So stop trying to control what isn't yours to control. Control your mind, your thoughts, surrender the rest, trust the flow of life, and just relax. So remember the following things. Firstly, you are not your thoughts, you are experiencing them. Secondly, you are not an overthinker. Don't say that you're an overthinker. You are just a person who sometimes experiences overthinking moments. And with this awareness, you're able to accept and surrender. You can free yourself from this loop of overthinking. Thank you so much for watching this video. If this video has helped you, please comment. I'd appreciate any support. Know that you're loved, and I hope that you just have the most amazing day in life.